Hello there. Welcome to my show, COVID-19 Update by Heerak, for October 20th, 2020. And today is International Chef's Day. So happy International Chef's Day. And in Arlington County, where I live, in Virginia, Northern Virginia, near Washington, D.C., there are over 100 different nations represented among the residents who immigrated from these nations, partly because there are over 100 uh, embassies in Washington, D.C., and consulates. Um, and so a lot of the people who work in these consulates and embassies, they may live in Arlington or Alexandria. So we have a lot of, international cuisine, which makes Arlington an interesting place. So if it weren't for COVID-19, Arlington is a great place to try new foods. Um, I really like trying out new restaurants in Arlington, especially Latino restaurants. I have some favorite ones, you know, but because of COVID-19, I haven't really gone to any of the Latino restaurants that I really like. Eating indoors is just asking for COVID-19 infection. So obviously you could take food to go. You could order food and eat it at home. So that's an option. I just haven't done that yet with my favorite restaurants, but I would encourage you to do it. You can enjoy good food. Good food is a simple pleasure in life. Um, COVID-19 is pretty horrible. So at least eating well is not a bad thing. It could perk up your life. So as we celebrate International Chef Day, I hope you'll go out and try different ethnic foods, international foods in Arlington County, Alexandria, Falls Church, and Fairfax County. There's a lot of great Korean food, Korean restaurants in this area as well. As you know, I'm an immigrant from South Korea. I immigrated with my father and mother and my two sisters when my father was called to be a senior pastor of a Korean church in Philadelphia, First Korean Presbyterian Church of Philadelphia. Um, it's yeah, Persian entertainment. What do you think about Persian music? YouTube is everywhere, and hundreds of different nations. I'm sure residents from 100 different nations, they listen to their own music. Immigrants, that's what immigrants do. Koreans listen to Korean music. And I see my, neighbors listen to Latino music. You know, um, my dentist is Iranian. I have like a couple dentists. One of my dentists, um, dental surgeon. I guess my dental surgeon is Syrian. He's 100% Syrian, like he's from Syria. He's an immigrant from Syria. And so his wife is nice. He's really nice. Fadi, Dr. Fadi, smile makers, dentist. I've known him for, a couple of years. And he has office in Falls Church, Arlington, and Vienna. And what's the other place that he, well, you know, so he's a nice guy, Dr. Fadi. I like him. He was telling me about his children going to an Arabic school because he wants his children to know Arabic. He's a good guy. And my dentist, I really like her. She's from Iran. Uh, I guess her father and mother are from Iran, and they got married in America. I guess they met in college. And she was telling me that she married a guy who's, I guess, half Palestinian and half Venezuelan, I think. She's 100% Iranian. And so Iranian American. She's, she was born in America, so she's American, but Iranian descent. Um, Racially or ethnically, she's 100% Iranian. So I really like her. Her dental office is on the same floor as Arlington Democrat. you know, Arlington Democrat. The Arlington Democratic Committee. They have their office in the same floor as her dental office in Arlington, in like Crystal City area. Um, is it Crystal City? I guess it's like Pentagon City, between Pentagon City and Crystal City. You just Google like Arlington Democrat Committee, their offices. It's on the same floor. So you just Google Arlington Democratic Committee, and then you just go to that floor. You'll see her dental office when you get off on the elevator. And she's a great doctor. I'm a dentist, so I really like her. Very nice person. But anyway, so she probably likes, maybe she likes this music, Iranian music. But there's a lot of international people in Arlington, and it's makes the county very interesting. Um, I have top five. Iran is number one, and their death rate is rising, which is bad. Like it was in the 20s, now it's in the 30s. So it's bad for Iran. Um, 539,670 people have gotten infected, and 6% death rate, 31,034 have died so far. Obviously, it's the peanuts compared to America or Brazil or India, but it is number one in the Middle East. Iraq is number two with 434,598 cases, 2% death rate, 10,366. So the death rate is rising in Iraq as well. So that's disturbing because it seems like Middle East is not headed in the right direction. And we have 6 months of flu season, and it is possible that Middle East can become like Latin America. Although it's hard to imagine because, as you know, Latin America is like continent of death. Brazil has over 150,000 dead. Mexico has over 80,000 dead. And like top five nations, they like all have, 5-digit death rate, They're headed to 6-digit death rate in flu season. So, it's hard to imagine that Middle East will become like that. But I mean, it's always possible. Um, Saudi Arabia has 342,968 cases, 2% death rate, and 5,270 people have died. Um, Israel is in the Middle East, as you know, stuck between Syria and Egypt and Jordan, surrounded by these three Arabic nations. Israel has um, 6,162 cases. And look at their death rate. Death rate is rising. I mean, they're still under 1% death because they shut down the whole nation before Rosh Hashanah holiday began, averting COVID-19 proliferation. If they didn't shut down, you may have far more deaths, but they shut down the whole nation. Netanyahu, who the prime minister, did that. He'll probably go down in Israeli history as the hero who saved Israel from COVID-19 death. But death is still rising. Cases are still rising, even though the nation has been completely shut down. So their death is at 2,278. So 4-digit death. Qatar only had 2 people died in a week. So Qatar has 129,944 cases and 224 deaths, 0.2% death. They had 222 deaths last week. So 2 more people have died in a week. There are a lot of nations in the Middle East where there are like hardly any death. So, you know, don't you wish you were rich like an Arab? You know the saying, rich like an Arab, but also like safe like an Arab, from COVID. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's about Arabic people, but they're not dying in large numbers. As you know, Iranians are not Arabic, they're Persians. And in Iraq, we have a lot of, movement. U.S. soldiers were there, and a lot of U.S. soldiers are there in Saudi Arabia. So the death rate may be from infections from like U.S. soldiers, really, because look at the death rate in America. Oh, talking about soldiers, behind me you see Israeli soldiers. In Israel, every single woman must serve in the Israeli military, what Israelis call Israeli Defense Forces, for 2 years. Every woman from 18 to 20 must serve in the military. Yeah, so they're probably like 18 years old. When you hit your age of 18, you're an adult, right? So, I mean, soldiers in America, a lot of Americans who enlist are at 18. When you're an 18-year-old, you're an adult. You get married, you could start a family with children. I mean, you're not a kid anymore when you're 18. So don't act like you're a kid when you're 18. When you're an 18, you're an adult. These Israelis are carrying about M16s. They're trained to kill. They're soldiers. If there's a war, they'll go and start killing, Arabic soldiers, they're trained to kill these 18-year-old girls in Israel. All of them, 100% of them, are trained to kill. Yeah, I mean, Israel, is a Jewish nation, and it's a small little dinky country surrounded by hostile Arabic nations. So they're going to make sure every single one of their population learns how to shoot and kill, and they train them at 18 to do that. Yeah. So these women can shoot M16s, all types of weapons, can assemble and unassemble a pistol within like a, I don't know, what a fast speed would be, but they could do it fast. They're trained for 2 years to basically carry a gun and be able to kill. So they go through basic boot camp for like 10 weeks. So everybody has to enlist in Israel. So yeah, it's their military culture. That's why they say Israelis are like sabras, meaning tough on the outside. Because they train you to be a soldier at 18. Everybody's tough. They're trained to kill. Kill like a killer. If there's a war. So yeah, so they're tough on the outside, but they're kind of soft on the inside if you get to know them. I've dated Israelis, so I can say that's actually true. Israelis are really nice. I like Israeli women. They're pretty. They're nice. I find myself very compatible with Israeli women. And there are a lot of Christians actually, among Israelis because there's like a million Russians that immigrated to Israel. And I guess it was like Operation Moses, I think it was. Because all you need is one grandpa or one grandma to go to immigrate to Israel with the law of return. A lot of Russians had like one grandma or one grandpa who was Jewish. So they're like 25% Jewish, but they actually are baptized Christians, But they were able to go to Israel with the law of return, and a lot of Russian Jews, Russians who had Jewish descent immigrated, But some of them go to churches, So Russian Orthodox churches grew like by like, I don't know, like hundreds of percent or 1,000% after the Russian Jews immigrated to Israel, Yeah, I mean, even in America, a lot of Christians have Jewish descent. Like I date like Christian women, they're like, yeah, I'm like 1/8 Jewish or 1/4 Jewish. I mean, I mean, they say like 10% of Baptist preachers are like partly or wholly Jewish. My best friend in Israel, Serge Gorman, a French Jew, aristocratic French Jew who immigrated to Israel. And I talked to you about Serge many times. His father's younger brother converted to Christianity and became a Presbyterian pastor. Yeah, he has a church. He's a senior pastor of a, Reverend Gorman. In Australia, he pastors a Presbyterian church in Australia. I mean, obviously he's originally French. There's the Gorman family is French, but he converted to Christianity and went over to yeah, Persian entertainment. You know, nice music, right? Maybe you should subscribe to Persian music. Yeah. So Serge Gorman's father obviously grew up with Serge Gorman's brother. I mean, Serge Gorman's uncle. When they were children, they all were raised as Jews, obviously. But at a certain point, Serge Gorman's uncle, the younger brother of Serge Gorman's father, converted to Christianity, maybe through InterVarsity Christian Fellowship or Campus Crusade for Christ or Navigator or Reformed University Fellowship or Baptist Koinonia or Chi Alpha. So which is kind of like a Christian Bible study group on campus, and a lot of people get converted, right? So maybe it was in college that he was converted. Like Serge Gorman's father doesn't want to talk about it because he doesn't talk to his younger brother anymore. He's upset that his brother converted to Christianity and became a pastor of a Presbyterian church. So they're not in talking terms. But you know, I mean, I think his younger brother is trying to proselytize him and convert him to Christianity. That's what Christian pastors do. you know. So whenever he comes to France, he makes an effort to see him. Yeah. So Serge Gorman's uncle not really converted to Christianity, but he's a pastor of a Presbyterian church, married an Australian Presbyterian. I think maybe a pastor's daughter or someone or elder's daughter. And they're living as evangelical Christian leaders. Like he's a major evangelical Christian leader. I mean, he's a senior pastor of a big Presbyterian church in Australia, and he converted, to Christianity from Judaism. And so you could bet that every Jewish family in America, or in even France, have relatives like this that they don't want to talk about, but they're there. Um, it's just a fact of life, Revelation said 144,000 Jews will convert to Christianity before Jesus comes back. I mean, we reached that quota. We have more than 144,000. So that part of Revelation has already been fulfilled. But as I said, like 10% of all Baptist preachers in America are 100% Jewish, or like 1/4 Jewish, 1/8 Jewish. I mean, obviously they don't consider themselves Jews. They consider themselves as Christians, but they have those roots. Like Serge Gorman's uncle is 100% Jewish. He's the first convert from the Gorman family. Um, but I mean, he doesn't live like a Jew. He lives like a Presbyterian pastor, Reverend Gorman. In Australia. And he's French guy, but now obviously his church is English speaking and he preaches in English and everything. He probably speaks with a French accent. Maybe he got rid of it. Who knows? Um, Maybe it was his wife who converted him. Maybe she was an exchange student from Australia uh, who went to France for a year and was involved in a Christian Bible study group and then converted George Gorman's uncle to Christianity, and then they start dating in the church and got married and moved to Australia. Who knows? I mean, I've seen stories like that in real life, so that's a possibility. Serge doesn't want to talk about it either. His father doesn't want to talk about it. That's why I'm speculating, because I don't want to talk about him. He's like, the name that must not be mentioned. In Harry Potter books. Yeah, but I told Serge Gorman's father that I'm Presbyterian, so he showed me the card. Like he keeps his card around. His younger brother's card, business card, with the address and phone number, saying senior pastor of Presbyterian Church in Australia. So obviously he loves his younger brother. He's keeping his card around like close to his chest. But I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll end up converting. Because I know it seems like the younger brother who's Presbyterian pastor is working on trying to convert family Gorman. But we'll see. I mean, I've known Jewish families, the whole family converted because of one person who converted to Christianity, you know. I've seen that. And, I was sharing with you about Maddie, at Liberty University. She's studying to be a teacher. She's like the second year um, Bachelor of Education major. Her father and mother is Jewish. They're not converted to Christianity, but she converted to Christianity, and she's at Liberty University by choice to be a teacher. And she's planning to marry a Christian, obviously, she's a Christian. She's trying to convert her father and mother and younger sister to Christianity, all Jewish. And so, and Maddie, I shared a photo of her, right, a couple of days ago. So you can see that show if you review it. So it's happening all over Virginia as well, even in Arlington, Alexandria, Falls Church, Fairfax County. There are high school students who are Jewish who convert to Christianity. Their father, mother is like gung ho, diehard Jewish, like American Jewish Congress, blah blah blah. Um, synagogue leaders, blah blah blah. But there are Jewish teenagers in Arlington, Alexandria Falls Church, and Fairfax County who convert to Christianity. They end up going to Liberty University or Oral Roberts University or Bob Jones University or Biola University or Messiah College or Covenant College, because they convert themselves when they're like in ninth grade or 10th grade, maybe like one of their friends or their classmates convert them to Christianity. There are conversions going on all over Virginia's 8th district, Virginia 10th district, Virginia 11th district. And if you're Jewish, a cousin who's converted to Christianity, or your own child, or your own grandpa, someone who's converted to Christianity. I mean, Book of Revelations prophecy gets fulfilled. Bible says 144,000 Jews will be converted. I mean, as I said, it's far above that. That's been fulfilled already. But it's still constantly happening. When I was in Delaware, there was a multi-millionaire real estate agent owner who's Jewish, but she converted to Christianity. So she's Jewish, but she's Christian now. Um, and she's like 100% Jewish. I think her mother was the Holocaust survivor. They all converted, even the Holocaust survivor. Every single one of them converted to Christianity. From my landlord told me I was in Dover, Delaware. So I mean that happens all the time. It's possible Heerak Christian's whole family convert to Christianity at some point. These things happen. There are Jews who convert when they're like 40, 50 years old. And then everybody converts. I've seen it. As I said, my own landlord in Delaware is one such Jewish family, Holocaust survivor. Holocaust survivor converted to Christianity as well. Everybody converted to Christianity in that family, Jewish families. These things happen throughout America, not just in Delaware, not just in Virginia's 8th district, all over 50 states. And so yeah. But anyway, you have a lot of Israelis who are already Christians. I mean, they live in Israel as Israeli citizens, and their zachut, their ID card may say Jewish, but they're actually Christians. So it's you have that reality right now in Israel. Yeah. So I mean, you know, people are fluid, right? People move around, and Book of Revelation does have that prophecy that's fulfilled. I'm sure Virginia Hospital Center has Jews who converted to Christianity who are doctors, nurses, occupational therapists, physical therapists. I'm sure, Fairfax Hospital has Jews who converted to Christianity like as adults, uh, who are doctors, nurses, maybe even like, in the C-suite, what we call C-suite, like chief nursing officer, chief executive officer, chief, accounting officer, you're gonna meet these people uh, because everybody, are searching for the truth, meaning in life. And as you know, my personal opinion is Christianity is the only true religion. I believe this personally, and obviously as a political candidate, I'm running for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th district. And my motto is bring America back to God. And when I say God, I don't mean like a generic, like cow god, sacred cow, like that, ancient Israelites built a sacred cow and they worship the sacred cow. Remember that? I don't mean that. I mean like Jesus Christ, right? And I know there are some liberal progressives that are like gasping for air. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress, is saying his motto is bring America back to God. He's telling everybody Virginia State District to affiliate politically with his campaign to bring America back to God. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. There are liberal progressives who talk like that, but I'm telling you, out of all the 100 different nationalities represented in Virginia's 8th district, I guarantee every single one of those nationalities, they have a relative who converted to Christianity, like as an adult, or a teenager or as a kid. That's just reality, reality that liberal media, I don't believe in the liberal media, may not want to talk about. But it's just real, very real. Um, so that's why, I have thousands of supporters in Virginia's 8th district because there are people converted from Islam who are now like devout Christians, evangelical Christians in Virginia's 8th district. People come here as adults who've been devout Muslims who convert to Christianity, and they support me. They want to bring America back to God, And there are Hindus who've been Hindus all their life, even Brahmins who've been like Brahmin Hindus, for thousands of years who convert to Christianity. As I've said, my family is Buddhist for 5,000 years, right? On my father's side, it was my great grandfather who converted to Christianity. Actually, it was my grandfather. Yeah, my great grandfather was Buddhist. I think he tried to disown my grandfather for converting to Christianity. But yeah, these are staunch Buddhists. But eventually my whole grandfather's side converted, like 100% of the family converted to Christianity. A few decades after, my grandfather's father tried to disown him for being a Christian. He became a Christian pastor. He was a businessman. And then his wife died of starvation because they have no money, and they were pastors. So his wife starved to death. It's not something to laugh about, but that's what happened. My father's biological mother died of starvation because they planted a church. My grandfather actually he was a business entrepreneur. He gave everything up. He gave up all his wealth, and you know, he became a church planner. So he planted like dozens of churches in small villages all over countryside in Busan, South Korea area. And he rode his bicycle from church to church to hold worship services, and people did not have new converts to Christianity. Some of them were disowned by their families, Buddhist families. So they were just trying to survive themselves, So they had no chance of paying my grandfather any kind of anything, because some of them were disowned and became homeless, Um, my grandfather almost became homeless, but I guess he kind of became homeless because, he was a wealthy businessman who converted to Christianity and became a pastor. And then he was so dirt poor that his wife died of starvation. Literally starved to death. Like, yeah. So I guess he was disowned by his father, because we own a mountain. There's a family mountain. And obviously, they could have probably supported him. But my grandfather was running around planting churches, and it was at a time when everybody's Buddhist, and that whole area was Buddhist. So yeah, he didn't get paid. They paid him in like rice, like little, pouches of rice that new converts to Christianity like stole from their households to pay him. So yeah, so it was like he was a church planner. It was a very successful church planner. Like he basically Christianized the whole area, that countryside, became completely Christian. Because he's going around planting churches everywhere. He's he was a business entrepreneur, but he brought that model to church planning. So his wife starved to death. They had no money, but he just went around planting churches everywhere. Um, yeah. So yes, I mean the whole countryside where he was Christianized, but there's like no Buddhists in that area now anymore. But so I mean, you could say he was a successful entrepreneur, church planner, because he basically converted the whole Buddhist countryside to Christian. But yeah, his wife starved to death. I mean, my grandfather actually lived to be very old. He died after he led a early prayer meeting. He slipped and fell as a grandpa. I think it was like in the 80s, and then he died. In the hospital from his fall. A lot of people, older people, they fall, they die from their fall. Um, I did an evidence-based research, and they say something like 1/4 of the elderly who slip and fall die within like and um, they I think they said 1/4 of the women the elderly who slip and fall and they die within like 5 years. I think it was in the evidence-based research that I read. Obviously, if you have good medical care, you can live longer than 5 more years. But not everybody can afford good medical care. And so yeah. So but yeah. So my grandfather fell. And in Korea everything's concrete. At least when he fell. So he fell on the concrete floor, broke his hip, and was rushed to the hospital and then died from that fall. Um, yeah, things like that happen, with elderly. You gotta be very careful, walk very slowly, don't like rush. Um, yeah, but anyway, yeah, so yeah, but so I'm sure there are people, Muslims out here in Arlington 8th District, converted to Christianity, who may be working on the Muslims in Arlington 8th Christians 8th District to convert them to Christianity. I'm sure there are Muslim evangelicals in Virginia's 8th District. I mean, that's what Christianity is made of. Have you heard of my grandpa? No, you have never heard of my grandpa until I told you. But Reverend Heerak Kim, he basically converted his whole countryside. It was 100% Buddhist. It took him like what 50 years of church planning to convert the whole countryside to Christianity. But you know, I mean, it's like growing any business. You want to grow your business. It took what Donald Trump several decades to build his Trump empire. Wherever you go, you have like Trump Hotel or Trump Golf. That's what excites him. What excited my grandpa after his conversion to Christianity is like planting churches after churches, and Christianizing like Buddhist areas. That was his thing. As you know, I teach in a Indian seminary in India in Bangalore, and our goal is to Christianize 100% of India, like Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists to Christianity. That's like the goal of the seminary. So we train like new converts to be evangelical pastors, and we plot them in 100% Muslim area intentionally because they have no way out. They have to convert their way out. You know what I'm saying? We drop them off like we drop them off in 100% Muslim area without any Christians. Then they have to plant the church and they have to convert their way out. But you'd be shocked. I mean, and we do that with Hindu areas too. You'd be shocked how successful we are. I mean, we plot like a Christian pastor and his wife, in a 100% Muslim area, and then they have to convert their way out. So they find people, the vulnerable population, who are open to the gospel and convert them, and they build from there. Like the untouchables, people who are not part of any caste system, generally. But you'd be surprised sometimes. Like even Brahmins convert to Christianity. So we plot them around, and their survival hinges on their being able to convert people. Is you sink or swim. Kind of like my grandpa. Although they have like a crutch because we seminary our denomination will come and rescue them if they need to be rescued. Not like my grandpa, he had nothing, and no one's going to rescue him. You know, that's why his wife died of starvation. You're on your own, you know. But so that's the model that we use, in India. The seminary is like 100% Indian students, right? Professors are made up of Indian and Korean, because it's started by Korean Presbyterians. But like 80% of the professors are Indian. But yeah, but we planted the Indian Presbyterian Church. But yeah, so yeah, we're highly successful. You'd be shocked. I mean, like we plopped down pastor and wife in an area, and within a few years, you have like that. Yeah, they have like hundreds of members. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive. Uh, um, yeah, some of them end up coming to America, and then they pastor churches in America. Like in I'm sure there are Indian churches, churches made up of former Hindus, former Indian Muslims, Indian Buddhists, all over this area. Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, you may never have heard of a church that's ethnically Indian. They exist. I mean, they're everywhere. Just you just don't know where it is because you're not Indian. Uh, and certainly you're not Indian Christian. But Indian Christians connect globally. Um, like Christians from India. You know, and they're always trying to convert Hindus and Muslims. Who are Indian, ethnically Indian. So that's their goal. And they're increasing. If you remember, uh, Republican governor in Louisiana, he was Catholic. I mean, there are Indian Catholics as well, and they're always trying to convert people. He was an Indian from Catholic. I mean, he's Indian Hindu who converted to Christianity. I think at college, he was at Brown University. I forgot his full story, but he converted as an adult. Like his whole family is Hindu, but I think he went to Brown University, and I think he might have been converted by like InterVarsity Christian Fellowship or Campus Crusade for Christ, or because there are a lot of Catholics in Protestant Bible studies, like Chi Alpha and Campus Crusade. Because there aren't too many Catholic Bible studies and secular universities. They're very aggressive. So in that age, you like aggressive Christianity. When you're 18 to 22, you like everything aggressive. So a lot of Catholics, they join the Protestant evangelical Bible studies in like secular universities because they like the aggressive versions of Christianity. They get, So some of them end up becoming Protestant because they think like Catholics are a little too wishy-washy. They don't like because Catholics kind of, they're not really aggressively evangelical, but Protestants are always trying to convert everyone else, to Christianity. So a lot of Catholics who are devout Catholics, they especially like Knights of Columbus type of Catholics, they like to join Protestant Catholic groups. I mean Protestant Christian groups that are highly evangelical, and they get involved in like proselytizing activities on college campuses. Some of them become like Baptist preachers. They leave Catholicism because I mean if they had proselytizing versions of Catholic Bible studies like at Harvard and Yale, I'm sure they'll join that because they're devout Catholics, but you just can't find one. I've gone to Catholic ministries at Yale and Harvard, and they're not trying to convert anybody, and they don't, they want to convert people, like devout Catholics who are young, like Opus Dei kind of Catholics from Latin America, they want to be converting people. So they choose to join Protestant groups. When I was at Georgetown going to a Bible study, there are a lot of Catholics joining Protestant groups. Like they choose to join Protestant groups because they want to convert people. I mean, they would prefer to convert people as Catholics, but they see that like Jesuits are not so gung ho about converting Muslims and Hindus to Christianity, so they don't want to be. Some of them decide to be Protestants because I know there are conversionist Catholics. Like Opus Dei is very conversionist, but Jesuits are not. Like Jesuits used to be very conversionist, and Jesuits around the world like you try to convert people to Christianity, but Jesuits in America, they're kind of lazy. They don't really try to convert people to Christianity, so they lose a lot of devout Catholics who want to convert people to Christianity to Protestantism. I mean, I know so many Catholics who are devout who became Protestants because they want to start, they want to convert people to Christianity, and Catholicism doesn't offer that to them. you know, that option to them, which is a shame because if you remember, Franciscans and Dominicans started out as mendicant orders. Their whole goal was to convert people to Catholicism, you know, and St. Patrick, but tried to convert people to Catholicism. And the whole point of Ignatius of Loyola, I mean, Jesuit order started as a conversionist proselytizing organization, but they kind of lost their steam, you know, and young people 18 to 22, devout Catholics, they want to convert people. That's just what people want to do, you know, and that's why, like, I think Catholicism is losing a lot of really great leaders, potential leaders in Catholicism to Protestantism, because Catholicism just doesn't offer that option on the college campus level, like at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, you know. And I've been to all these schools to research the most devout and the best quality Catholics who are like really devout. Most of them end up, you know, joining Protestant groups, and some of them, you know, kind of leave the Catholic Church and become Protestants, you know. And this is happening in all 50 states. So I mean, you know, I think Jesuits, they need to, like, and the bishops, American Conference of Bishops, they gotta realign their mission with the gospel, you know, because Christianity is about converting other people. It's always been that way since the very beginning of time. The whole story of St. Paul is about converting people who are not Christians. So, you know, unless you go back to the roots, Jesuits are going to lose like promising leaders who would otherwise join the Jesuit order. You know, I know like Catholics who would have taken the vow of celibacy and become Jesuit priests if Jesuit priests allowed them to proselytize Hindus, Jews, Muslims, you know, with support. They would have become Jesuit priests for life, taking vow of celibacy. I know Catholics like that who decided not to stay in the Catholic Church. You know, they want an evangelical movement, and Catholicism did not offer it to them, so they joined the Protestant movement, and they eventually ended up marrying because Protestants marry. But they could have stayed their whole life as a Jesuit priest, celibate. I'm sure they would have done that. You know, I've known many, not, you know, at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, University of Pennsylvania, UCLA, these Catholics who would have loved to just like take the vow of celibacy, become a priest, if the Catholic Church allowed them to start converting like Jews, Muslims, Hindus to Christianity with full support. But, you know, they don't offer that support. So, but, you know, obviously we're happy to offer that support in the Protestant Church. As I said, you know, the seminar that I teach at, Christian University that I teach at in India, that's the goal, to convert the whole of India to Christianity. You know, that's like its stated official mission. You know what I'm saying? But you know, that's how evangelicals are. That's, you know, we are called evangelicals. So we're evangelizing, is what I'm saying. But anyway, you know, you'd be shocked how many Muslims are converting to Christianity all over America. You know, how many Hindus are converting to Christianity? You'd be shocked. Yeah, I just don't know because people don't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you'd be shocked. Yeah, you know, when I was in Poland, I had, you know, lunch or dinner with some nice people. So I'm sharing photos with you with, you know, nice Polish people. And actually, on the left side, she's a Dutch, and those are two Italians. But the two women on the right side, or uh, on the right side, are Polish. Yeah. U.S. had 854 deaths in 24 hours. And so the death rate is at 220,940 deaths. And confirmed cases are 8,124,211. Yeah, and you know, for today, I guess I'm considering this question, you know, is America entering a phase of rapid acceleration of COVID-19 cases? There are three articles that kind of point in that direction. First article is coronavirus hospitalizations are growing in 37 states. It's like evangelicalism, you know, how fast it spreads. That's like COVID-19. COVID-19 is like metaphor for evangelicalism. Yeah, that's how fast evangelicalism spreads it wherever it goes. Um, I mean, just my seminary alone in India, you know how many churches we founded so far? You know, geez, you know how many thousands, tens of thousands of people have converted so far just by people we've trained, the new converts we've trained? Yeah, you'd be shocked. I mean, you know, and we have like, we already set up like network of like 20 different seminaries just in Southeast Asia. You know, we have seminary in Nepal, we have seminary in uh, Bangladesh, we have seminary network going into Afghanistan and Pakistan to convert the Muslims there. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's expansionist, you know. You know, our goal is to convert the whole Middle East to Christianity, you know. But you know, that's just all the evangelicals in America want that. You know, I mean, you're not going to find an evangelical in America who doesn't want all of Middle East to convert to Christianity. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's the one true religion. You know, that's what evangelicals believe. Um, yeah. Yeah. So this article was written by Berkeley Loveless Jr., CNBC News yesterday. COVID-19 hospitalizations were growing by 5% or more based on a weekly average in 37 states as of Sunday. That's like 2 days ago, according to a CNBC analysis of data collected by the COVID Tracking Project. Alaska, Iowa, Kentucky, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Utah, Wisconsin, and West Virginia all hit record highs in the average of hospitalizations. Yeah, I mean, death is coming. As you know, I'm Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. I'm predicting minimum 3 million deaths in America by June 2021, but more like 30 million Americans would die by then. But you know, if you're truly born again, you go to heaven. But you know, you'll miss your family members and they'll miss you. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people are going to die. COVID-19 hospitalizations, like the so-called positivity rate and deaths, are a key measure because they help scientists gauge the pandemic severity. Second article, COVID-19 testing lags as cases increase across the United States by Nigel Chihuahua, Conway Saeed. Sounds like a Muslim guy. You know, I mean, you could tell a lot by name. My name is Heerak Kim. Kim, last name, you know, it's Korean. Joe Murphy, probably Irish, right? I mean, geez, you know, names say a lot about you. Um, NBC News yesterday. And the quote is coronavirus testing rates have fallen in several states where cases are increasing. An NBC News analysis of testing data has found as of Monday afternoon, 8.2 million people have contracted COVID 19 in the US, according to NBC News numbers. More than 733,000 of those cases have been confirmed in the last 2 weeks. That means, you know, their situation can get worse and they could die in the flu season. Yeah. Um, Third article, Dr. Scott Gottlieb, US about a week away from rapid acceleration of COVID coronavirus cases. And that's articles by Emily DeCiccio, probably Italian, probably Christian, you know, because everybody in Italy is like Christian, right? How many Italians I met who's not a Christian? You know what I'm saying? 100% of the country is Christian. CNBC, October 20th, 2020. The significant quote is Dr. Scott Gottlieb is warning that the United States is about a week away from seeing a rapid acceleration in cases of COVID-19 as the number of coronavirus infections and hospitalizations surge. So the story is the same. America's headed to massive cases and massive deaths. And as I said, you know, I'm Heerak Christian Kim, independent candidate for U.S. Congress in Virginia's 8th District. You know, I'm predicting 3 million to 30 million Americans will die. You know, and I think the facts and figures support my prediction. Let's see. You know, we could talk again in June 2021 and see if we're, you know, if my prediction was correct or not. Obviously, if you shut down right now, you can reduce that significantly. Um, you know, but if you don't shut down, I'm absolutely sure I'll be right by June. So let's see what happens, yeah. But anyway, I'll bring you more facts and figures to help you understand COVID tomorrow. It's a daily show, so check in tomorrow. Learn a little bit more about the world. Learn a little bit more about Arlington, Alexandria Falls, Church, Fairfax County that you may not know of. The hidden Virginia's 8th district, that, as I call it, but which is very real. Well, maybe real is not in quotation mark because it is actually real, but hidden Virginia's 8th district, that's in quotation marks. Yeah. Yeah, so I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Yeah, so yeah, I hope you stay safe. And I hope that your family will be safe as well. And see you tomorrow. Bye.